Welcome to the Blatchford Coaching Systems Podcast, where we share over 40 years of wisdom on the business of dentistry. We help maximize efficiency, minimize stress, and give dentists a better life-work balance.
Hello, I'm Dr. Christina Blatchford of Blatchford Solutions, and today I am lucky enough to get to interview Dr. Drew Addy from Carlsbad Beach Dental. And Drew has been a client for about a couple years now, and he has really made a huge transformation in his practice, in his life, and I would just like to be able to share some of that magic with you. So welcome, Drew.
Hi, thanks for having me, Christina.
Yeah. You know, before you were here on this webinar, you had a new patient and you were doing a consult, and it was for a new patient that had heard about you. It was a digital referral. Can you talk about that, because that's something that has just absolutely taken off in your practice?
Yeah, thanks, Christina, for that introduction. I just had a video consult. We've been doing a lot more of those since COVID came out, and it's been great because we've been actually able to expand our reach beyond just the 5-mile, 10-mile radius. And so this patient actually came from downtown San Diego, which is about 40 miles away.
It depends on traffic, though.
Depending on traffic.
Right. I used to live in San Diego.
30 minutes or 4 hours,
Right.
on rush hour. She was actually she's on Instagram, and she was looking to basically improve her smile. And so she contacted a friend of mine who happens to be a dentist up in Beverly Hills. And that drive can actually be anywhere from a 3-hour drive on.
Right.
For multiple appointments. It just didn't work out timing-wise, but he said, hey, I've got this great dentist that I've gone to school with and trust him a lot, and I think you guys would be a great match. And so she went on, looked on my Instagram profile, checked out my reviews, and then sent me a message asking to speak with me. So we just got off the Zoom call, and everything went really well. She's going to go ahead and get scheduled for a smile test drive.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. That's amazing. So let's go back to when you first started working with us. It was about November of 2018, or there so about. And you had what you thought to be was one of your most challenging months. Can you bring us back to where you were then?
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a really tough time. My wife was, I think, about 8 months pregnant, and we were expecting our first.
Okay.
And that was a really interesting time because it really started putting things in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at my schedule. I had no time booked out except for the week between Christmas and New Year's. And fortunately, he ended up being born during that week. That being said, I didn't really want to miss out on his life. We've only got so much time with our kids, and I didn't want to be one of those dads who wasn't present. And looking through all the different options that I had available, I didn't really know how to build in that life-work balance that Bill talks about, as far as scheduling your life and then work around it. I was completely the opposite. And I think that year, I don't think I took a working day off, just because
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I simply couldn't do it from a financial perspective or from a management perspective, and I needed help. And I had heard fantastic things about you guys, and that was the first thing we plotted out was actually starting with your life first, which was mind blowing.
Kind of a leap of faith a little bit, because sometimes it's hard to think about your life first, when your finances are not in a line. And I will say, we aren't going to necessarily talk about your specific numbers, but your numbers wise, you've definitely more than doubled collection since starting working with us, which is it's incredible. But I think, really it has been for you and for doctors that really work well with us, a mindset shift. Because I remember when we first started working with you, even though, and this is your quote, that there was a parking lot full of Mercedes or dotted with Mercedes, nice cars. You felt like your patients could not afford the dentistry that you were capable of, and you've gone through extensive training through COIS, and you've also done the Brian Harris Smile Virtual, and we have a lot of doctors who have a great deal of training, but then they come back to their office and think, well, oh, I don't know if I should present that because I don't know, what if they say no? And so, what we're doing is, we're doing the patient actually a disservice by not giving them the opportunity to have ideal treatment. So tell me how that shifted, because you were thinking that your patients, and it's a heavily PPO practice. You used to be a network with, I think, about 7, and now you're a network with about 4. But the mindset shift from thinking that these patients could only afford what their insurance covered to doing full mouth cases. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the mind shift was in that Dynamo, when we had Dr. Bill basically say, hey, really what we're trying to do here is figure out what they want and then give it to them. So that was a huge, like you said, mindset shift, because I wasn't asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
And not asking the right questions, I wasn't getting the right answers, right? So what it really was for them was just a position from them to be able to have an easy out. Okay, let's say, I don't really want it, so I don't have the money for it, and then off to the Barbados they went, right?
Right. And then you wonder, boy, that patient has their priorities screwed up. I'll tell you what, I certainly couldn't be me and my case presentation skills. It's got to be that patient.
Exactly. And looking back on it, I couldn't blame them, because where I was at is I probably want to go to Barbados too. So,
I mean, it sounds pretty good, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I lost the video a little bit, but I can hear you okay. But yeah, just kind of getting back into that is really just starting out with the why, and really just starting out with asking questions. And I do that a lot more now, especially with new patients when they come in, on the phone call, I'll just have them answer the simple question of, what are your dental health goals? And then I'll just listen. And whatever is on their mind, usually they'll share with you, and you just say, patients will share a story, and you say, tell me more about that, and then you'll find out all these things that they're interested in. And then the biggest thing that I really took away from that was, I'm not here to present solutions for problems they don't have, right?
Sure.
I'm here just to present them options for what they want, right? It's a total mindset shift. In dental school, I'm sure you remember, basically the instructor would say, okay, this is what the patient needs, right?
Yeah.
And then the patient would sit there and grip the chair for the next couple hours. So, that is kind of what the training that we get, but if I figure out what they want and why they want it, I can then present them options, and then they select the option, and then from there we then let them know what the cost and whatever everything's involved, right? So it's letting the patient lead, telling us what they want, and then we're just here to present options, right? They could do nothing, like Bill says. There's some people out there that have dentures and they're just fine and happy. It's a want.
And I think
It's a good point.
That's a very good point, because we go from feeling like the patient goes from feeling like this is our agenda, um,
Right.
then it becomes their agenda, which is a whole lot different story. They're getting this treatment done for themselves, not because, oh, there's this crown that you said you wanted to do on me. I mean, whenever if I hear that, I feel like, boy, I did not do a good job at case presentation if the patient thinks that is about the most fun that I could have is doing this crown on this patient, darn. So just kind of funny. Um, so
Yeah.
when you started with us, you were doing basically kind of piecemeal dentistry. You weren't necessarily doing full cases. And so
Right.
how did you go? And you talked a little bit about this, but how did you shift your mindset thinking that patients might want more than just what their insurance covers?
So that's a great question. And so basically where that kind of stemmed off was more, it also had to do with leadership, right? And that's a
Hmm.
big proponent of Blatchford is developing that confidence and that leadership mentality. And so, I was always worried that my team didn't really maybe believe that I could do what I was saying I was doing, right?
Sure.
And or they wouldn't be as involved or engaged in the process because as we do more full cases, it requires a different level of engagement from the team,
Right.
right? It's easy for the front office person to present something that fits within a tiny little insurance box and do the crown a year club, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for the assistant to just set up for a filling and not maybe a filling and a, right? It's easy for the hygienist to support you when it's only the most smallest filling ever and not the ideal treatment for them. So it really kind of boiled down to our vision, and then everything started filling in after that, right? So our vision, was basically, and it's simple, but I love it. But it basically is just that we are the leading wellness and aesthetic dentistry in Carlsbad. That's what we provide, right? That's it. It's aesthetic and wellness, right? So
Okay.
if I'm doing a filling on a crown that's going to weaken it when it needs a crown, let's say we go past that limitation of a filling and it's weakening, then I'm not satisfying the fact that we're actually creating a wellness approach to that tooth, right?
Right. You're not
It,
following your vision.
we're not following our vision. So everybody kind of got on board with that. And with, the other situation that happened, I said that I was working all those days a year. So was my team, right? So then we started having burnout, right? I don't want to take on this big case because I am exhausted. I've been working for the last 8 months straight, right? I don't want to take it on. I'm too tired. And so my staff felt the same way. And so, we were that was what was leading to the single tooth dentistry was a combination of burnout and lack of vision. What are we here to accomplish? And so once we were all on board with that vision, it started becoming commonplace to present treatment based off of what the patient would want versus what the insurance company would want. And then we let them make the choice. Okay, you want to do Crown of Year Club? Fine, that's totally fine. We'll do it one at a time, but I cannot guarantee you that other dentistry will not break down in the meantime. So they can make that choice. And surprisingly, everybody wants ideal dentistry, right? Everybody wants to be healthy. It suddenly fulfills that need, and they know that we're here to not only do wellness, make sure they're healthy, but also to make it look good. Because everybody, at the end of the day, doesn't want a front tooth PFM that is very, opaque, very over contoured, and yes, it's healthy, but it's distracting.
Not aesthetic, so it doesn't fit your
Aesthetic, so it
so
doesn't fit the vision. Exactly. So
yeah,
so now we're getting into that mode. So it's a big picture that creates that result.
very good. I think that the leadership is a big thing with this practice. And your vision for what you wanted this to look like, because at the point that we started working with you, you had two ways to go. One way would have been to potentially add a third hygienist, and because you were so PPO heavy, that you could have added a third hygienist. And I mean, talk about being tired. You would be running from room to room to room to room, and also be practicing some limited dentistry here and there. Or the other direction is we can take a look and see which of these insurances fit that vision. And I think eventually there may be a point where we might be at a point where we might have a few less even insurances, just because we want to let patients know that you're a non-restricted provider, in the sense that you don't want to have the insurance dictate the treatment that the patients get to have the choice of having.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what it takes. It takes courage, right? It takes, you know that just as well as anybody, it takes a lot of courage to step up and sit in that chair and pick up that handpiece, and to have to also run and manage both patients and adults. It takes extraordinary courage and leadership to say, hey, this is the way to go, even though you've never been there yourself, right? To take off and say, hey, we're going to take 6 weeks off next year and have no idea how that's going to happen.
Right.
The only thing you know is working every day of the week, right? And that is incredibly scary, and it's so hard to do it alone. I'm just sitting here on a corner by myself, got nobody to bounce ideas off of. How do I know I'm going in the right direction? I've never been there myself. And how does my team know to follow me, right? Who are they hooking their trailer up to? And that's kind of a little scary, right? So it was the network that allowed me to see what other offices were doing through these systems, seeing what other offices were doing through these challenges, and even bringing my team along with me to Dynamo up to Oregon, so they could see for themselves that yes, this is possible. And to understand and actually have a vision. Bill's favorite quote was, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Very true. Very true.
So we came up with our vision. We came up with, it was centered around our lives, not around work. And then we filled in work around it. And that was something that everybody could see would be real, because when we came back to the office, we had a lot of work.
Very good. Tell us about during COVID. COVID is unprecedented, obviously, a new thing, pandemic. And so offices all across the U.S., of course, and the world had to shut down for a few months. And, I think that one thing that you said to us that I think is very significant, that if you were practicing in the same way that you were practicing before starting working with us, that you're not sure that you would have made it through COVID, that you might have decided just to throw in the towel and just be done and maybe work as an associate someplace else.
Oh, yeah. I think that's absolutely 100% correct. The way that we were running it was basically pure burnout. And pure burnout, low margin, and there's no room for error. And COVID, and I'm sure I've talked to a lot of friends, and we all know somebody who didn't make it through COVID. And it's a very real thing. But when COVID hit, of course it was unprecedented. Of course it was extremely scary. But we were already slated to take a couple weeks off in the springtime. So we'd already budgeted for COVID.
Right.
Essentially. And what it did was it allowed us a couple weeks to just gather information, because it hit so hard and so fast. To make permanent decisions in that moment would have been really detrimental. We would have made knee-jerk reaction decisions because we had no margin. But because we had margin to build in, that we had a strong team, a strong cohesive team that we all trusted each other, we were able to keep, when everything was shut down, we were able to keep people on payroll for a couple of weeks until we figured out what the next best move was, how long it was going to last. and then also ramp up very quickly, because I told them, I said, we need to make sure we're back in action before we can take our next time off. My team totally exceeded our goals, and so we ended up reinstating our time off policy in this last week. I was up in the mountains, my assistant was out in Palm Springs. We've got amazing stories that we're going to hear back of people spending time with their families. And
I love it. And really, that really is so rewarding for you as a small business owner to feel like, wow, I really get this opportunity to make a positive difference in the lives of my team members in this way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. We talk about doubling profits and things like that. But what it really means is, I get to spend a week alone with my boy, for a whole week, right? And I just saw how fast he grew up in 1 week, right? I mean, it's crazy. I'm like, I don't remember you at the beginning of the week coloring like that,
Oh.
You're gonna miss out on those moments, right? And our team has a lot of small children, and they all spent the week with them, especially during still a time of uncertainty. They got to be home and homeschool. I mean, we're doing, I don't know what you guys are up to.
Yep, we're up to homeschool. That's
everybody's homeschooling, and it's hard on families right now. They needed that time together, right? They needed that time, and to be able to provide that after them working so hard is extremely rewarding for them as well. They're part of a really great office, and they get to be there with their families. So
perfect. I love that. I think that's wonderful. When you started working with us, you were a bit apprehensive. What was your number one fear when you were thinking about coaching, in terms of, what was maybe holding you back from moving forward?
The number one fear holding back is this real? Would it work? Right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's always something that you hear is it's too good to be true. Like, are doctors really doing this? Is this just some kind of conspiracy?
Blatchford Kool-Aid. They're drinking the Blatchford Kool-Aid.
I think Bill said he's been accused of all different kinds of things. But the bottom line is that what really kind of just gave me the courage to go forward is I knew I couldn't keep doing what I was doing.
Right.
I had to make a drastic change because I wasn't eating well. I didn't have time to work out. I didn't have time. I wasn't going to have this new baby coming, and I couldn't see myself ever having time to spend with him. And then I started thinking about it. Okay, if we finance it, it's about a crown and a filling extra a month. Would I do an extra crown and filling a month to have an extra week with Jackson? Yeah. And so it's actually been that we've done way more than that. It's been absolutely it's justified the cost in every single way. I think my wife and I say, oh my gosh, we were on our vacation up in the mountains, say, oh man, we wouldn't be here had we not taken the leap to Blatchford. So the money will you don't have the details yet. If I was talking to myself, a year and a half or 2 years ago, I'd say, I know you don't know how this is all going to work, but it will. You just have to take that first step and move forward. So there's too much to lose by not going forward.
Right. One of the things that I just love is not only do you have a happy team, but you also then have happy patients, because you really are taking the time to do what we call relationship dentistry. You're able to really make connections with people and give them the smiles that they want. And I think that really makes it so that what you're doing is so much more fulfilling for you as a dental practitioner, rather than the type of maybe surface dentistry that you were doing before, or kind of the patch and repair type of dentistry that you were doing before.
Yes, so relationships are huge for our practice. In fact, during COVID, we did our 80-20 spreadsheet. And we called the top 80% of our practice, and I just during COVID, and I just said, if they didn't pick up, I would just call them and leave a message saying, hey, we hope you guys are all hanging in there. We're here for you guys. If you guys need us, if something comes up, let us know. We're still picking up the phone, although our office is closed. And
which is so important. I think that to reach out. I mean, this is, like I said, it's an unprecedented time, and to know that, gosh, at least my dentist is here for me. It feels good, at least somebody's here to help me through this. So yeah. Good.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's been really amazing as we have all come back just to see all our patients again. And it's been just absolutely awesome. We're doing special check-ins, and our whole goal as a team is to, during this time, is to be kind of an escape a little bit from reality.
Oh, I love that.
They actually come here. We greet them by name. We have a very fun atmosphere. We're always smiling. We're always talking. We're always joking. Of course, in a very professional way. But you go to the grocery.
You weren't doing that before. I mean, you weren't doing the joking or before. It was like, oh my gosh, here's another this other patient's coming in, and I'm exhausted, and
Yeah, exactly. It was like getting greeted by the TSA. Like, oh
right.
My gosh, all these people showed up to fly today. Oh man, they brought bags. Oh great. That was what it was before. So patients, they leave our office, they're happy, and then they get a little text message. The systems we've built in, and that has us rate us on Google, and that's turned into a tremendous amount of Google reviews. I think.
Right. I think that you started with maybe 25 reviews, and now I think you have like 160 or something. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and they're all 5 stars. They're all from our favorite patients, and it's translated into just tremendous word of mouth. So it's been great because they talk about how they feel. It's great.
Very good. Well, we are so proud of everything that you've done, and it's just so wonderful to see such a terrific mindset shift from scarcity to abundance for you, and be able to see you practice the type of dentistry that you're capable of on patients that are really excited about it and have team members who really feel fulfilled in their career. So, and of course, the whole thing about being able to spend time with your son and your wife, those times, you don't get those back. My daughter is 9, and I can't believe, I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, in less than, 9 years, she is going to be going to college. And so, the time is precious. So I can really appreciate that. Yeah, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate all of your time.
If you like what you heard on today's show and are curious about how our systems can be customized for your practice, schedule a call to speak with one of our doctor coaches. Simply go to Blatchford.com/call. No pressure, no BS, just an honest conversation to see if we can help you. Over the years, more than 4,000 dentists made this same call and discovered how Blatchford coaching transformed their profitability, their practice, and their lives. Go to Blatchford.com/call. Thanks for listening.